Hey, what's up, witches? I'm bringing this to you cozy style from my couch because I just want to do another quick, funny little video today to kind of close out the month of December, and one which is just sprung from my own brain and my love, of course, of the Wheel of Time. So today I'm bringing you Forsaken Class Superlatives. So in this video, I'm going to be listing all 13 original book Forsaken, and then giving them a cheeky little yearbook class superlative type title that I personally associate them with and that I feel kind of sums up their personality. So, number one, we're going to, of course, be starting with Ishamael, or Ishi as he's known among the fandom. Ishamael is a former philosopher and ultimate nihilist, and I think the show in particular does a good job of bringing that aspect of his character to the forefront. And so the class superlatives that I have given to Ishii are most likely to run for president or some type of office, and also the most boring party guest, because he would just always be off in the corner waxing philosophical and being his little nihilism self, and that's just not any fun at parties. Number two, who we did not see in the show, is Balthamel. I want to say something about who he was in the Age of Legends, but I honestly don't remember. So that's why I not only granted him most full of himself or biggest ego. I think the only thing that I remember about him is that he was somewhat of a lecher and a womanizer. But the title that I'm also granting Balthamel is most forgettable. I'm not at all mad that they did not include him in the show. Right up there next to Balthamel as most forgettable is probably Agenor, who they also decided to cut out from the adaptation of Eye of the World. I believe Agenor in the novels is the one who kind of invented or created the Trollocs, along with some of the other weird, crazy, hybrid monster-type beings from the War of the Shadow. And so I gave him the title of biggest nerd because he was something of a scientist himself, but also most likely to go work for the Nazis, since that's basically what he was doing, is running genetic human experiments to create a lot of these things like Trollocs. Number four, I have Bilal. I think in the Age of Legends, he was originally the lawyer, so I just put that he was the most likely to go to law school, and also most unlikable. I don't remember a lot about him, to be honest. I think he's also one of the more throwaway of the Forsaken, and so I wouldn't be surprised or mad if he's also one of the ones that got cut for the show. In my notes, I have in parentheses Peter Panning, like Robin Williams' Peter Panning from Hook. I don't remember why exactly I wrote that note, but it's funny, so I'm leaving it in. That apparently is how I felt like his character could be best summed up, is just like asshole lawyer. Alright, moving on. I'm ranking these next Forsaken as vying for president of the Luz Theron Telamon Haters Club. So starting off with Samael. I gave Samael biggest Napoleon complex, and if this was a high school scenario, he would have been the star quarterback on the team, if not for Luz Theron Telamon. So he was like one, along with the next that I have listed, Demandred, one of the Forsaken who was just kind of always vying with the dragon, with Luz Theron, for like the first or the best in everything. And I believe in his description he was kind of said to be short and stocky, and so maybe that's why I gave him biggest Napoleon complex, is because not only his height, but just, yeah, also being like just shy of being the best at everything if it were not for the existence of Luz Theron Telamon. And so then right alongside him, I put Demandred as always second place, and the title of the not so chosen one, because again, I said that in high school he would have been prom king if not for Luz Theron Telamon. And I also ranked Demandred as possibly the number one Luz Theron Telamon hater, but him and Samael are kind of vying for president of the Luz Theron Telamon Haters Club. A shocking number of the Forsaken only joined ranks with the Dark One and turned to the dark side because of the sheer amount of hatred that they bore for Lews Therin. Let's be honest. Number 7, for the male Forsaken, I have Asmodean because he's kind of the second most forgettable. As the kind of rock star musician of the group, I gave him the class superlative of most likely to move to LA to try to make it big. I think that was kind of the reason why he ended up joining the dark side, is just not even out of any natural evil proclivity or want of destruction or like the nihilism of Ishamael, but just because he never got to make it big as a musician. He wanted to be famous, so he kind of made a Faustian bargain and sold his soul to the Dark One. So now we're getting into the female Forsaken, and so of course, top of the bunch for me is Lanfear. She would probably be voted the hottest or best looking. She would want to be the prom queen and class president, but only if she got to do so alongside Lews Therin. And so I think the class superlative that she would be granted for sure is most ambitious, but she would also be president of the Lews Therin Telamon fan club. And personally, I would also vote her cute but psycho. Things even out. Next I have Semiraj, and I'm voting her as Queen of the Goths, and most likely to become a dominatrix and or a serial killer. Sadly, we don't really get to see too much of her in the books, but she is one of the more prominently shown of the female Forsaken, and was, like, most impactful to the plot. Unlike our next Forsaken, Masana, she is probably the most forgettable of the female Forsaken. I would not be surprised if she is the one who got cut from the show plot because she's barely appearing in the book plot. And so I'm just voting her most average. Next up, Graendal. Graendal, I'm thinking, is going to be one that will be in the show. I think she's been name dropped, and she is probably the one that appears the most often after Lanfear. So I think Graendal would be given the titles of biggest flirt. She definitely has the biggest id of the bunch, whereas some of the Forsaken are pure ego. She is like kind of driven by pure id. But in terms of high school class superlatives, she wants to be voted best looking, but that title would probably go to Lanfear if we're being honest. And I'm also giving her the title of the Virgin Slut. I feel like we all knew that one girl in school who never was really known for actually sleeping around or sleeping with anyone, but she would be the one who we would all go to for the tea or the info, and she just somehow seemed to still know a lot. And so I definitely think that's Graendal. I think she started out as somewhat of like a secularist, like a nun or a monk type figure, who alongside of Ishamael was like very philosophical and like more in their head and trying to live a very simplistic, non-materialistic lifestyle. And then after kind of the fall of humanity and the unleashing of the Dark One in the world, she saw that like it wasn't a merit-based society anymore, if it ever really was to begin with, and she became very disillusioned with things and reality and like swung way too far the opposite direction. Nothing in moderation type of person. So after Graendal, we have Moghedien, who did appear at the end of last season of the show and is a very prominent figure in some of the girl story plot lines. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with her next season. In terms of Moghedien, she's just not going to be given a class superlative because she's just that quiet girl who doesn't stand out, but yet knows everyone's tea. And so I also said that she would be the one who's in the yearbook club, putting together the yearbook and giving out all the class superlatives, but she's herself is never showing up in any of the photos. And last but not least, I completely forgot to put him in the male Forsaken, to be honest. That is Ravine. And I'm really curious to see if he is going to be one of the male Forsaken that shows up or not, or if we're going to cut a lot of the Andor plotline out. In terms of Ravine, I don't even remember what he did in the Age of Legends, and he, alongside Balal, might also be voted most full of himself or biggest ego, but I'm just going to give him the superlative of most likely to date a cougar. If you know, you know. But there you have it, folks. There are my very tongue-in-cheek, Forsaken class superlatives. It remains to be seen which male Forsaken we're going to get in the show. I think it'll either be Samael and Demandred, or perhaps Ravine. Regardless of who we get and how, the Forsaken, I think, have definitely been the standout characters in the show so far, and I can't wait to see more of them. So let me know in the comments below if you agree with my class superlatives or not, and what superlatives you would give to the Forsaken, as well as to some of the good guys in the show, like the Emmons Fielders. So thanks for watching, and until next time, stay classy.